Good afternoon. Friends, family, loved ones, enemies, contributors, distractors. This is Kevin Lewis on The Blueprint. And this week's show is called My Biased Opinion. And I want to say it's good to be back. Had a couple of weeks off, much needed time off, but it's good to be back. And this week's show, I want to talk about some biases that we have. Excuse me, I'm a little under the weather also, so I'm trying to make it through this show, my voice and everything. In my biased opinion, I want to talk about our biases, our opinions, and how they are manipulated. And when I talk about having a biased opinion, everyone has a biased opinion. The key is it justifiable biases that we use? And are those biases helpful or harmful in the way we think and formulate our opinions? Now, when you talk about an opinion, that's a view or judgment of something that's formed, but not necessarily based in factual information, knowledge, or complete factual information or knowledge. And it's a natural process that we use, that our brains use when we are going about trying to figure things out on the run or on the go. We form these opinions about things. And like I say, that's natural because we don't have the information at hand that you don't have time to go and look information up when you have to make choices on the go or on the run. And sometimes that's a survival instinct. These are instincts that we have. We form opinions about things. And like I said, it's not necessarily based on facts or knowledge. You have to make decisions sometimes without the facts or the knowledge about a situation or circumstance that you're confronted with. And also now another word I said, my biased opinion, or what biases are, they're prejudices in favor or against something or someone. Sometimes it's a distorted information and it's unfair. That we gain in an unfair manner. It's like we have these biases that are incorporated in our minds about certain things, like trust. You know, you may have a bias. You see wild animals or something, or you see dogs attack somebody, or you see a dog attack somebody, and you don't trust that dog. You don't know the history between that person and that animal. Maybe that person had beat that dog or had did something, and the dog, attacked that person. But sometimes we form these biases, which are prejudices, against some things or people, and without the information. You don't have the background information, but you have a biased opinion. And sometimes your biases are, you're biased with some information. And you're slanted for some reason of thinking something without all of the information that's available to you. And these are preconceived notions and factors that help to slant our conclusions on any information or any choices that we have to make, favoritisms or whatnot. Sometimes these biases or these preconceived notions are favorable in the conclusions of things that we have to, readily come up with an answer for. But the distortion of information that we have, it contaminates the conclusions sometimes. It gives us invalid results. Many times this happens when we have biases and we use our opinions. The biases help control our opinions because we don't have all the information sometimes. And sometimes you need the information before you come up with your conclusion. Now, in hasty situations, you don't have that luxury of looking up the background of what happened or why things happen and what's going on in the background and the history of things. So you have to come up with a conclusion immediately. And this happens all the time in life. These are basically things that happen continuously in life. and the distortion of information and contaminants that help with our conclusions sometimes are done purposely. And this is what I want to focus the show on. Understand the natural process. But if you are being manipulated, what if someone is purposely distorting the information? So what people always talk about, they talk about facts. Do you have all the facts? Do you have all the information? And a lot of times we misuse the word facts. In fact, I had someone that got upset with me, a social media friend, because they have a certain theological background, and they were posting something, making a comment about these are facts. That's like, I would give you an example. It was in the Bible. This is a fact, and any court of law would go along because hundreds of people said this is what they saw, this is what they reported or whatnot. And he said, so in this court of law in America, any court of law, this would be accepted. And I just went on to tell him that that's not what a fact is. A fact is not a popular belief. If you got so many people that believe a certain thing, that doesn't make it fact. And when I was correcting him on the fact issue, it became outside of those guidelines of what we were talking about. He started wanting to attack things that he felt that I believed, or, it became a counterattack situation. Whereas if you would have dealt with the conversation at hand, and he could have, and I told him that, I said, you could have just easily said, you're right, because I know you went and looked it up and said, okay, well, let me define a fact. And the fact is this. And I know he did that because this is his MO. And he didn't reply with that because he knew that what I was saying was true. And that what the fact is, there are things that are known to be true that can be independently tested or calculated. That means that if I say this certain thing is a fact, somebody could come 100 years later and test what I'm declaring as a fact. Someone could be around the world and use the information and the data and come up with the conclusion that these are facts. And it has nothing to do with favoritism, biases, and opinions. You have to exclude all of those things. So if you're a religious person and you're talking about facts and you're talking about the Quran or the Bible or whatever books, hadiths, or whatever you want to bring into the conversation, the only fact that you could say is this is what this book says. And somebody could look and say, yeah, the Bible does say that. Yeah, the Quran does say that. That doesn't mean that it's an actual fact. The fact is that it's in that book or a piece of literature, or someone did say this, or you have a recording. Can someone go back and research it and find it to be in there? That doesn't make it true. So, that was the conversation. But what we do, we throw around the word facts because we believe that facts are truths that we believe, but that everything that we believe is not facts, or everything that people believe, even no matter how popular the belief is, that doesn't make it a fact. It has to be tested and calculated in a scientific manner. So when we talking about opinion, it's not necessarily based on facts or knowledge. This is just your personal opinion. When you talk about biases, they sometimes use facts. Like we can use a fact to reinforce our biases about something or somebody or a situation. We could use the facts that at hand or knowledge that we have, but sometimes we don't. Biases don't necessarily need facts to substantiate themselves. This is what nations know. I put it like that. This is what nations know. This is what governments know. This is what scholars know. So what if someone purposely distort the information and create biases on their own within you as a subject? When you are the subject, if you are the student or you're the subject of the experiment or the control situation, if someone is purposely distorting the information and creating a bias within you, then they are the ones that are controlling the results of your decisions or your opinions or your biases. They are creating biases within you. This is what I'm talking about. Therefore, they're not educating you, they're miseducating you. And it can prompt someone to have a book called The Miseducation of a Negro by Carter G. Woodson. If they're using a group and they're not doing that as an individual, what if they're doing it for entire groups? Then they're not educating you. Something in the guise of education becomes miseducation of the masses. That is done purposely. So now you have a training of minds. And when you have a training of minds, then you have a training of actions. And you have a training of opinions. So when someone helps you to form your opinions, not based on facts or not based on all the facts, then they are controlling the way you think and they're controlling your actions. And therefore, and also they're controlling the opinions. Indirectly, they're going to be controlling the opinions because you're going to see reactions. You're going to see the reaction, the manifestation of the things that they want to be seen and the actions that they want you to partake in. You're going to look at it all around you, even if it's not directly within yourself. So when you control a group, that's a social aspect. Those are social biases against the group by others. So people outside of that group will have these biases about this certain particular group. They have these biases and they will have these opinions without all of the facts. And then this is how things become institutionalized. And what institutionalized means is it's an established practice or custom through the school system, the religious system. It's all in society. It becomes a realization, an accepted belief system. Slavery became institutionalized. What does that mean? If you say, look back in history and say in Mesopotamia, slavery was institutionalized, that means that it was in the fabric of the nation and the laws and everything. So when you institutionalize a belief, make it a social bias becomes institutionalized, that means that everywhere you look, everyone is accepting it as being the truth. It becomes truth accepted in teaching and accepted in preaching. That means just in the school system, it's going to be passed down. It's not going to be attacked. It's going to be at the pulpit. It's going to be in the religion. Or you're going to have these confirmation biases that if your religion is teaching one thing, you're going to find loopholes or reasoning to do the opposite. Religion is a big influence amongst a lot of people's cultures and customs. But sometimes they don't act within the realms or the guidelines of their religion. They come up with confirmation biases. And these things are done for a reason. And these are creating a systemic problem because the things become institutionalized. I'd like to thank some of y'all for showing up. Aisha Ray, Sakina, Walaikum Assalam, sister, Andrea. She said, yes, it's so important to step back and review and assess to assure that you are discerning correctly. I appreciate that comment. This is basically what I'm saying. I'm trying to get people to understand that you have to do that. And I appreciate Ladae Bishop for showing up. So if someone is using a form of manipulation and it's becoming systemic, it's not against the group. These are things that they may be doing to other people to help them form an opinion about your group or a certain group, a targeted group. They're helping others outside of that group form an opinion. So if they can help them form their opinion, they can manipulate the process and control the biases. And it's being, when you manipulate it, it switches from a natural process to a manipulatory process. That's a control process by the structure or the government or whatnot. Then you have other groups that's looking at you in a certain way. So even if, say, if the government moves on this group and they treat them in an unfair fashion, the people that's the bystanding groups will go along with it because they believe that there's a reasoning behind this, the action of the powers and that be, the powers that be, because the powers that be are manipulating and controlling the biases of the other groups that's watching, the bystanding groups. So if the government comes up and they give you, a lot of times this is what happens when we look at the media. You'll see a lot of information, negative information, or amplified, highlighted information about a certain, and I'm gonna say a government, a leader in a foreign country that your country, wants or has a conflict with. So it makes you stand by and say, yeah, this is what needed to happen when your government wants to invade or bomb this other country. They create the dynamics of social biasing in your opinions about situations. If we look at the Middle East, his Palestinian problem that they have, and a lot of people over here don't understand what's going on, but they have an opinion on it. Again, an opinion is a view or judgment formed socially, or formed socially against someone or something, and not necessarily being based on the facts or the knowledge that of the situation. So many of Americans have an opinion, or they're picking a side in the conflict going over there between Israel and the Palestinians. And many of them, if you question them and say, well, what's going on? Or do you know what's going on? They'll say, yeah, well, they bombed, these people keep bombing Israel. But that's because that's what you're being fed. These people are terrorists because that's what you were being fed. And I always tell the story, when I was growing up watching the cowboy and Indian movies, Native American, the Indian cowboy and Indian movies, I was always on the side of the cowboys. Man, I don't even like saying it. I was on the side of the cowboy in the movies. And I remember asking my dad, why do the Indians always start trouble? I didn't have the facts, the knowledge, or the information. I had an opinion, a biased opinion, based on what I was being fed. And my mind was being manipulated to believe that the Indians were the bad guys. And my dad had told me why the Indians were fighting with the Cowboys. I was asking, why do they always try to pick a fight with the Cowboys and they always lose and this, that, and the other? Because I was being nourished through the media. This is American Hollywood, They're helping to form a biased opinion. They're the good guys. Everybody that's opposing those good guys are bad guys. And then when you start learning the background and start learning the actual facts, then your opinion starts to change. But that's a manipulation process that controls the biases that people have. And therefore they try to control or influence the way you think and how you see things. And then it becomes acceptable. If they create a certain people to be violent, and even if they present statistics and the facts, you may have some facts. Some of the statistics may be facts, but you don't know the background. It may be a fact that a Native American outpost or some guerrillas attacked this village. That's a fact, but you don't know the whole story. And therefore, if they're only presenting part of the information, then your opinion, when you don't have the full information, or you have distorted information, which means it's biased information, then you're going to come up with a faulty conclusion or opinion about things. Yes, it was an attack. Yes, the Palestinians did do this, but what did the other side do? What was actually happening to prop this whole situation over there that happened maybe decades ago? This is biases that people are influenced with. it influences your opinion. So if you want to go out there, or the government wants to go over there and bomb somebody, or you create news stories, and in the news, in which this is something I'm going to get into a little later on in the show, you create, when people see news, they ignore certain things. Oh, it's a genocide going on over there. You're going to form an opinion, well, these people deserve it. They're getting what they deserve. Or when you see this happening at home to your own people, a lot of people that sit back and watch a lot of things that was happening in the black community by law enforcement, a lot of people, outsiders' attitudes was, yeah, well, these people are violent. This is what happens when you're violent. If I just think about what was happening with Malcolm X, his assassination, the response with a lot of people around the world, a lot of black people was, well, even Martin Luther King said, when you teach violence, you end up like dying of violence. When you teach it, you preach it, you're going to speak it into existence, is basically what he was saying about Malcolm X's assassination, not knowing that his assassination was coming up. And it didn't matter. It didn't, whatever they portrayed as being violence. And when we come back and we look at it years later, we say, like, this is defense. They painted that as violence. They painted the Black Panther Party as violence. They painted the Black Panther Party as being the black equivalent to the Ku Klux Klan, when it was nothing of the sorts. Once you have facts and knowledge of the situation, your opinion will change. But they were controlling the opinion because they was giving us biased information. And this is how the country operates in its education system, or its miseducation system. I'd like to thank Coretta also for showing up. I appreciate you showing up, sister. So these things are done when you start to manipulate. You're controlling people without them even knowing that they're being controlled. That's what manipulation basically is. There's a manipulation process to control the biases and opinions that we formulate. And there's social biases that's at play. There's social biases that work within our community that controls how we see each other. And it controls outside of our community how others may see us. And what feeds these manipulations is bring up two biases, and these are systemic things. These are structural things that's known. Availability bias is one thing, and I'm continually talking about availability biases because that keeps showing its face in different facets of this country, or just outside of this country. Availability biases are used against us. This is a main tool that's in the master's shed that's used against us and have been used against us. And this is why I always say that we're being attacked on so many different levels and formats, that we have to understand the attacks that's happening to us in the black community if we're wanting to or willing to combat what's happening to us. You can't undo a knot if you don't understand how the knot is being tied. You're going to pull and you're going to keep tightening the knot, or you're going to be pulling at a place that's not doing anything for you. So availability bias is basically what I wanted to have this show about, but explaining the bias part of it. Because many of us have our biases, and it's natural. We should have biases. Now, the thing that Andrea said is it's important to step back and review and assess to assure that you are not discerning, that you are discerning correctly, that you are discerning the situation correctly. You have to question yourself. What is it that I know? What is it that I just believe? If you just believe something, if you have a preconceived notion before you're engaging it, and we do have these preconceived notions, but sometimes when you want to discuss these things or you want to attack this situation, you have to step back and assess the situation. And you have to ask yourself, why is it that I believe what I believe? And sometimes it's just reconfirming an affirmation, because you should be believing what you believe. But if someone is presenting something, you have to be neutral in the process of digesting things that you're giving. So what availability bias is the information that's available to you, basically. The biases that we form with the information that we have. No matter good or bad information, you're going to assess that information and form some type of bias towards what you know, what you believe that you know. And in the book Future Shock, Alvin Toffler said that we have to not just you don't want to know someone to teach you how what to know, but you want someone to teach our students how to think, not what to think, but how to think. That is very important. And this is what we're talking about. You be able to assess what you think you know. Question, when they say question everything, they don't mean like, okay, why, what? And in a way it is, but you question even yourself, what you believe, what you think that you know. You question everything that you're bringing into the discussion. And either you're going to, reinforce what you believe because you're not being biased. And if you come up and someone wants to have this conversation, you can entertain, you could come with your biases, but you have to entertain the information that someone else is presenting. So you're not just arguing or debating a situation. And that's the situation I got into on social media about Thanksgiving. And I understand what people are saying about why they made, and I'm not attacking you. I'm just saying what it is. All I'm saying is stating facts. And if I come on and I state a fact about Thanksgiving, about what it's about, you're going to get a lot of feedback from people that celebrate Thanksgiving because they want to justify them doing it. If you do it, then just do it. What that have to do with the facts? This is not a biased opinion. I was stating a fact about the horrors of what happened to the indigenous people in the day that this government used to celebrate how the natives helped them before they stole their land. Someone came to this country and someone else that was already here saw that they were struggling to make it, didn't know the land, didn't know how to eat, didn't know how to eat off the land, didn't know how to cultivate their own food. We got food, we came and we giving you food and we helping you survive, and they didn't know that they was helping the survival of their own demise. And those that played a hand in their demise created a day to celebrate that. And this is what has been fed to us as a day of celebration. And then we say, well, this is a day to be thankful. And we are separate. And this is what a lot of pro-black people or so-called leaders, they try to justify what they're doing because that's a cognitive dissonance. Because when you know that you're doing something that's going against your cognition, your thought process, you're going to reason or create reasons or excuses to do it. If people say, I don't need an excuse, well, that's fine. You don't. You could do what you want to do, how you want to do it, when you want to do it, and where. But don't sit around and make it as if it's right or that it's justifiable. We do it because this is where we came up in. This is what America, this is an American holiday. This is what Americans do. You're doing that. That's fine. Firecrackers, 4th of July. If you're going to do it, but you don't justify it or look for reasoning. And you can say, well, you're going to find it within yourself. Well, this is a day to be thankful. Oh, and I made a comment with somebody that told me that. I'm straying off, but I'm going to get back on track. I'm like, but you don't need them to tell you when to enjoy your family. This is a tradition. You following traditions and just say that's what you're doing and move on from that. That had nothing to do. I didn't say that black people shouldn't celebrate. I didn't say anybody shouldn't celebrate. I stated a fact. Then everyone that celebrates, that cognitive dissonance came into effect because then they want to explain why. Well, I just do it because it's a, time for family to get together. Any time is a time for family to get together. What's wrong with black families? Oh, now we're doing the black thing because, you're looking at who you're talking to and you think I'm that's going to strike something. Yeah, it's good for black people. Any time for black people to get together is good for black people. But that's cognitive dissonance because What's available, the information that was available for us growing up in America is that this is a day to be thankful. But then when you look into why are we being thankful, you question everything. And if you find things to be invalid or, don't not coinciding, then it's your right to say, well, you know what? Maybe I'm going to stop doing that. And it's your right to say, you know what? That's messed up, but I'm still doing it. And that's no problem with that. But acknowledge that, yeah, it's jacked up and I'm doing it. That's what the information that when you look into the things that we do, you can form your own opinion off of based on facts and knowledge, or not based on facts and knowledge, or you could just not care. That's fine. But availability bias is the information that is made available to us that helps us create the biases that we have. Now, when the information that is given to us is being distorted, then we are being manipulated in the crunching of the information. If you're only told, if you have a conflict between two people and you only hear one side of the story and you come up with your conclusion, is that just? Or should you hear the both sides of the story, or three, all three sides of a story or whatnot? When you're only hearing about what's happening over there in the Middle East and you're only hearing it from one perspective, should you not want to hear the Palestinian perspective or know what's going on over there and balance the two perspectives out, or just look at this whole situation without them giving their input to try to manipulate your reasoning? When you have availability biases, your biases is based on the information that you have available to you. And sometimes, how is it being presented to you? If it's available to you, who's presenting it to you? And I hear people say a certain thing, man, I heard this happen. I said, well, where did you hear it? That's very important. If I heard Pepsi was the #1 soft drink in America, well, where you get that information from? Well, it was a poll done. Who did it? Who was tested? If someone says Trump was the best president ever, I'm going to say, where you get the information from? Not that someone says it, because someone's saying that is opinion, but I'm saying if they say studies say, or a poll says that most Americans approved Donald Trump or was anti-Obama or whatever, then I'm going to say, well, where did you get that information? Where's the statistics? Where's the information? Where's the the data that was collected? Where did it come from? Because it could be biased, and they may be in a bunch of people that work for Pepsi. It may say it's not independently done poll. It may be they may go to Idaho, where most of the people may be conservative, and they say, well, we did a study, and most of the people here in America, yeah, well, where in America? Is it randomly done? Was it done across the country, or was it from one concentrated area where most of the people that you knew ahead of time was Trump supporters? Then you're doing a bias. And the poll is factual. Yeah, you did do a poll, and it was a factual thing that 70% of the people was in approval, but then there's just underlining information that you're leaving out, or that could be asked. Okay, where was it? Where were these people at? Were they randomly from all over the country? How many people were polled? But when we have availability biases, how do they do this? How do they use availability biases to institutionalize and establish a practice or custom of thinking in this country? And it becomes systemic, which means it's institutionalized. It becomes systemic. It's in the law enforcement. It's in the judicial system. It's in the real estate. It's in the schools. It's everywhere. These biases about a certain group of people, whether they're thinking this group of people is superior, or another group of people are inferior, or this group of people is violent. So the tools that they will use is in the media. Like I said, when I was growing up watching the Cowboy and Indian, that's entertainment. but it's in the entertainment. They're slanting the way I see things and my perception of things without giving me actual facts about what actually, it's not historical. This is entertainment, and in their entertainment, these Indians are always attacking the stagecoach with an old man at the piloting the wagon, and a white woman, sitting by his side, and a daughter, her white daughter, in the back sleeping, and all these Indians and natives, they attacking them, and it makes them as the bad guys. These people are helpless that you're attacking. And then here comes the cavalry to the rescue. They're the good guys. That's how the media can control your biases and your opinions on things. In our entertainment, in our music. If we are going to someone else to put out our music, and the music that they are going to put out is going to be that of destruction, black destruction, sexualization, black, the way they portray a black woman, the way these men are talking about black women, over super sexualized images of black women, twerking and all this. Even if you're in a rap video and you got all these vixens in your video, and you're pouring out liquor and doing all these things like this, and women scantily dressed is around you twerking and stuff, that's an image that's created in our minds, the receiver in our minds. And you may have another group that may be conscious and talking about positivity, but they're not promoting or pumping those people out. So that creates a bias from others looking on. Look at them. We're not in their community, but this is how we see them. This is us being having availability to these people, and it's confirming what they're saying about us. They do it in our movies. They put out the blaxploitation films. They used to do that. And then the roles that we play in the movies. They say the first ones always to get killed, in a lot of these horror movies is the black person. Why? Because we're expendable. Whenever they build up a hero that's endearing during the movie, you start, gravitating to be endeared to this one white woman, and everybody else that's around her. They may have good intentions, but they are expendable, and this continues to happen. So in your mind, without you subconsciously, black people are expendable. They're the first ones to die. That's acceptable. That's opinion that you're having in your mind, a bias that you're having in your mind that you didn't formulate on your own. Someone is manipulating you to think like this. When you look at the news may show actual cases. And what comes to mind just now, I remember when it was when they Biden and passed the anti-Asian something bill. The guy that walked into the, I believe it was a spa in Atlanta or something, a white guy came in there and killed everybody that was in, the Asian people that was in the spa. Then it became not a white against Asian terroristic attack thing. It became black and Asian. And I'm wondering, why did they do that? They showed this one black man that had mental issues. I believe he had killed his own mother or something. And they show him this big old imposing 6 foot something, 6'2", 6'4", ex-convict with mental issues, and he's beating this Asian lady to death on video, and they plastering that all over the media, as if there's an actual problem between black people and Asian people. These black people are attacking Asians, and we have them. We're their biggest customers. They own most of the beauty supply stores in our community, and if it was a problem, we would see it firsthand. They would know it firsthand, but that's not what happens. So the media start posting these images when what was happening, the actual attack started from white people, a white person attacking or killing these Asian women. So this is what's available to America. They're pumping this information out. So now they need to pass this anti-Asian discrimination bill or whatnot, as if that's a big issue. Not them attacking them, but us attacking Asians. So it becomes in the news. Or what they do, they highlight incidents that have black people in it, and you'll see it on social media now. That's a big thing. Or, you know, sometime if it's a white person doing it, back in the days, they wouldn't put the picture up. They'll have a name like, you know, William Carter attacked, you know, shot somebody, blah, blah. And they won't show the face. But then they'll turn around and show somebody else when it's black, and they'll put their face up on the news. This is creating an image in people's mind. It's creating an image in our own mind. A lot of times we say, man, I hope that person wasn't black. And they'll post a picture. They'll post a picture. They'll post the incident. Knowing that the crime rate, the statistics tell us, the FBI statistics tell us that white people are creating crimes at a larger margin than black people, but that's not what's portrayed on the news. So what that's availability. They're making the available news of black people doing crimes the biggest subjects on the news. So that goes into your mind. It's availability biases. Damn, every time I turn around, black people committing crimes. When I look at 2020 and all of these shows like that, that's not the case. I'm seeing a lot of white people doing crimes too. I'm just not hearing about it in the media, doing atrocious crimes. So it's in the media, the entertainment, it's in the news. They come out with shows like Cops, you know, and I grew up and the Cops thing was on. There's always cops in the hood. And 9 times out of 10, they'll show every once in a while a white dude in a trailer park that's getting arrested for something. But most of the shows is about cops running down black people and you know, doing all these things like this. That's playing into the perception of America. These black people are violent. Our cops are doing their job, doing the best they can to fight these criminals. Now, these black people become criminals. Just like in the cowboy movies, the ones with the black hats on was always the criminals. The ones with the white hat on, they were always the good guy. The Lone Ranger, he had a white hat. Could you imagine being in Oklahoma, Texas, or Arizona, where it's all sweaty and hot all the time and dusty, and you got something pristine white on? You're out riding horses and dust kicking up and it's rain and you got on white. How hard is it to keep a white hat clean? But that was something that they created, an image. The white was good, the black was that lets you know who's the bad guys. Whether it's even if it's just an object, that's how you know who the bad guys are. When we was growing up as kids, our entertainment, when you're a child, when you're a young boy, you're looking at superheroes. All of your superheroes are white. Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, Aquaman, all of them, Flash, all of them are white. We didn't have any black superheroes that was being pushed out in the media. So the white kids was growing up with their white superheroes. The black kids was growing up with their white superheroes. That's availability, manipulation, availability biases that manipulate the way you form your opinions and the way you think and your biases. More importantly, you'll have biases against your own people or for these people as thinking they are something good no matter what. No matter what history has shown us, these are people that is good. And this is availability biases that they use. They amplify and exaggerate and highlight our mishaps, our criminal actions. They amplify, exaggerate, and highlight their good deeds. They reinforce the stereotypes that they people have about us. They even started doing that with the Hispanic people. In the last decades, they start painting them, oh, they're immigrants and they're coming over here. They're stealing jobs. They're doing, and they got white people believing this as if white people have jobs that the immigrants like could come. Sorry, Bill, you know, you're the supervisor over here, but we got this new guy, Jose. He's going to take your job because he's asking for less pay. If they're immigrants, most of them can't speak fluent English. What jobs are they taking? That they got America scared. And they have this thing where they got Americans scared, or they're coming over here, they're getting resources, they're getting food stamps, they're living off of our economy. This is why our economy is so bad. They're not looking at the actual things that this government is investing in, the tax breaks that they're giving billionaires, and all the missteps and mishaps that this government has done with money. And they find a culprit, and it's the illegal aliens. And then when you see a certain group lose an election, it's because they got illegal aliens able to vote. They're coming up with voting registration cards somehow, and they're stuffing the ballot box. They become the culprit. And when the news just puts it out, the news don't even have to put out that it's true or not. They can put out the information that this is what somebody is alleging, and that sticks in your mind. So that the availability of anti-Hispanic, anti-black crime, corruption, all these things is being put into your mind through the media. They exaggerate, they highlight, and they amplify. Sometimes just news stories that have these people in it. When an immigrant does do something, it's amplified, it's exaggerated, it's highlighted. This is availability biases that they create within us. Back in the early 80s and whatnot, back when the Iran Contra thing was going on, and we had the hostages in Iran, and we started having problems with Iraq, and now we got problems with these Muslim countries. What started happening in Hollywood was an anti-Arab campaign that people don't even realize was going on. The main movies that was coming out, the blockbuster movies, Hard to Die, and with Bruce Willis and things like this, and Raiders of the Lost Ark. They had the Nazis, which is the known bad guy. The Nazis wasn't, we haven't thought about the Nazis in so long, but then they had the Arabs working with the Nazis. They're putting them in there. They're the ones that's doing most of the fighting with the hero in the movie. And Hard to Die, these people, they have this Arab accent. They're here in America, but they have this accent there, and this is what's being projected and imprinted in our minds as a people in the country, because this is in our entertainment. They creating the bad guys to be a certain culture. It's always some type of terrorist movies that started to come out at that time because they were trying to vilify these people, certain people. These are the people we're against. These are the perfect villains. So in our mind, that's what's available. The biases start to circulate and formulate in our mind. These people are violent. These people are violent. To hell with all the wars going on that was going on in Europe even at that time. With Bosnia and all the cleansing stuff, and that was going on. But this is how they control your opinion. Something that happened with 9/11. It was the two Marines that it was actually two Marines, and it was one of them was black, a black Marine that went into the 9/11 building, and they were helping save people out of the wreckage. So what I call it the 9/11 Marines. They made a movie. I can't think of the movie. Something about 9/11 attack, but the hero was a white person, and the black person that was actually doing it, they didn't make a movie about him. They didn't make it about both of those guys. They just made it about one person. The black person was Jason Thomas. He was one of the Marines. He went in there and he helped locate and rescue people in the aftermath of the collapsed building. But the movie that they made was about a white Marine that came there, that was off duty, that was with him, helping him. But they don't mention Thomas. So that's a bias. And what did I say? How they you distort information in an unfair manner. So you make a hero out of a situation that actually happened. You make a movie about a situation that actually happened, and you exclude the hero in it because that person is a person of color. And so what they're doing, they're manipulating your mind. You're seeing the Cowboys as the good guys in America. And then the next bias that I'm going to talk about, I know I'm running out of time, is the confirmation bias. This is something that works hand in hand with availability bias. Confirmation biases is once you believe something, the information that confirms that belief are rewarded subconsciously in your mind. In your mind, this is something that's natural. And this is something that was done naturally, because if you believe this river is dangerous and you start hearing stories of things that happened, a crocodile came out and grabs a kid at the end, and you're gonna, okay, I need to remember that. I already believed that river was dangerous. This is why I didn't cross it. I was right. It confirms your beliefs. And somebody could say, well, yeah, we crossed that river 100 times and nothing happened. Okay, then somebody else, but yeah, I know somebody that said that they knew somebody that died, that's going to stick in your mind because you already have a bias that believe that it's dangerous. And you are going to discard or not even weigh the information the same. You're going to weigh it differently, the things that confirm what you already want to believe or what you already believe. And this goes against what Andrea was saying about step back and review and assess the information to assure that you're discerning it correctly. Because if somebody tell me 100 people, 200 people crossed the river with no incident, and I hear about one person that said that they knew somebody that said that somebody got ate, then I'm gonna be like, yeah, it's dangerous. I knew it was. I'm gonna confirm what I already believe. And confirmation biases is helps reinforce the biases that they are manipulating us with. So if they manipulated you, in your opinion, to think of certain things. So when black people started being murdered in police by the police force, which I don't know even why I said started to, when it continued to happen some years back, if someone came up with black on black crime and black on black crime shouldn't happen. No crime should be happening. White on white crime shouldn't happen. But you had these black people in the black community start saying, well, if you don't want to be killed, if you want Black Lives to Matter, you need to stop having black on black crime. That became, somebody put that out there. When did black on black crime become a phrase? When black people start complaining about being murdered by police. That should not have even been a slogan, black on black crime. If you want, then you had these people saying this, it needs to stop. If you don't want black on black crime to happen, then y'all should stop killing each other. But yet y'all worried about police. Everybody should worry about the police killing you unjustly. I don't care if it's the mafia. The mafia got war with another organized crime family, and they killing each other. But the police don't have the right to come and kill you without, reason. And you should be able to say that. But this is what they do. They plant things, and then that's confirmation that we see, look at another black crime. Look, black person killed another black person. So what? Another white person killed a white person. Mexican person killed a Mexican person. That happens all the time. White on white crime, if that's a thing, has the same rate as black on black crime and brown on brown crime. But with us, it becomes something amplified, exaggerated, and highlighted, and it's used against us in our cries for justice, peace, and equality in this systemic racial system. So when you have confirmation biases, you have people that's going to look up information, discard information that goes against what they already believe. And it's going to make the information that you research hold heavier weight because it confirms what you already believe. So when someone sees a black person commit a crime, that just confirms what they already believe about us. And even with us, when we see it, it confirms what we already believe about us. Even though we see all of these other stories, 2020 and all these, crime stories, and it's filled with white people. We're going to see the news that's going to highlight us committing a crime. And this is how Charlie Kirk operated. He made out to which people, and this is why he became so popular, because he was confirming the biases that this country already has. That's why. So even if things that he was saying wasn't adding up, or someone debated what he was saying, what he was doing, he was confirming the rest of this nation on things that they already have a biased opinion on about us. What he was saying was racial attacks, black pilot, DEI, unqualified. Why didn't you say a white woman? Because they're the ones that benefit off of DEI the most. But that's not what they want to hear. They get confirmation from things that they feel because this makes them feel better about themselves. Their failures are coming at the expense because something is put in place to give us the upper hand. And this is why they're not getting that job. If I can't get it, how can this black person have this job? These are the things that they feel. This was confirmation biases. And these are things that we have to understand how that works. You have to gather information no matter what. And assess that information no matter what. If it goes against you, it's still information that you need to consider. You can't discard information that goes against you, or only want to talk about the information that's for what you already believe. And the way that many of us will compensate with that is pro-blackness, Afrocentricity. That becomes a seesaw, and what it is, it's not anything wrong with pro-blackness or Afrocentricity, because what you're doing, you're balancing. Sometimes when the seesaw is all the way up one way, you have to bring that down and push this part up. You have to compensate. And this is what many of us need to do, because we have been fed one side of a story. We have been fed a lie that sways one way. So to undo some of the damage that is being done, that has been done, we have to come back and go against it and overcompensate at times, and overcompensate in a manner of what they would neglect. What we as a people was neglected, have been neglected with. And this is why those pro-black type stories are needed to be pushed and promoted in our communities, because anti-blackness has been pushed and promoted in our communities. And I'm going to shove in anyone's face the pro-blackness and the inventions that we have done and everything that has been positive that we do. And I am going to do the opposite of confirmation biases. I'm going to confirm the opposite, so that we can to compensate from what these other people may see. So every time I'm gonna turn around, I'm gonna speak positive. I'm gonna see the negative stories, but I'm not gonna circulate that and promote that, because that's already going to be circulated and promoted. I'm gonna promote our own black images. This is what I believe our job should be, instead of reinforcing all the negativity that's going on. Soon as something negative happens with black people, it's celebrities. We talk about it. We gossip about it. And this is something that we have to curtail to change things. I'm going way over. I appreciate everyone that showed up. Kevin Lewis on the Blueprint. Hopefully I'll have a better show for y'all next week. Peace.